Welcome to Xencelabs Creative Life series, where we're weaving together the common threads of life as a creative professional by connecting the dots between our stories, our health, processes, and growth. This month, we're talking about mental health and the role wellness plays in creating balance in the life of artists, designers, students, and creatives of all shapes and sizes. We wanted to get the scoop on mental health from a professional wellness practitioner's point of view. Today, I'm excited to welcome Omar Davis and Roxwell from CrashBell. CrashBell is an anatomy, mindfulness, and wellness company based out of Brooklyn, New York, that creates educational material to help folks connect to their mind, body, and spirit, both in and out of the workplace. So Omar and Bless, would you like to give a little introduction to yourselves and your roles here at CrashBell?
Absolutely. So, hey, my name is Bless Roxwell, and let's see, where do I start? I am a mental health facilitator here at CrashBell, and in my own time, I am a Reiki master, a psychotherapist. I am a mindset coach because I'm not a life coach because I can't tell anybody how to live their life, but I can certainly tell you how to change your mind. And so I love talking to people, supporting people. I am a perpetual cheerleader. I was a cheerleader in high school, and years later, decades later, I'm still a cheerleader. I'm not going to give myself away, but I'm still your favorite cheerleader. And so, yeah, that's kind of who I am.
That's great.
Amazing.
Yeah, actually, I'm super excited for one. I just had a bunch of emotions come up as I was talking. But my name is Omar Davis. I am the founder and CEO of CrashBell. I actually have my license as a medical massage therapist, and we had a practice in New York and Brooklyn where we focused on medical sports rehab. And in that practice is actually why I developed CrashBell, because a lot of my clients were corporate. And so we were literally addressing a lot of the stressors, the tensors, and the things that they dealt with on a daily basis. We decided to focus on their emotions and their outlets so that we can actually start to fine tune what's happening with them. And just as Bless said, it was the mindset. It was the mindset. It was the emotions. And we found that, that information was something that we should look into. So from there, I created CrashBell. I, started to really work on myself. Actually, I started poking all my buttons and realized that I had a lot of trauma, FYI, and we all do. So, so from there, I just really radicalized myself and became really accountable for Omar and the things that I choose to think, the things that I choose to feel, and even how I interact with the world around me. So it's a little bit about me.
Amazing. I am so glad to have y'all here today and talk about wellness, because you both have such an incredible opinion and experience and expertise in this field. It's what you do all day, every day. So
all day, every day.
So can you both kind of tell me a little bit more about CrashBell and what that looks like, what programs look like? Just give me kind of an insight on CrashBell itself.
Yeah. Well, CrashBell, actually, it started from an idea. The idea was just to share information. The information that we wanted to share was really about not only your body, the human species, and how we act as a whole, but also consciousness and the way that we think and the way that we interact. And from there, it developed into this wonderful concept. Because of my background in anatomy and physiology, I started to realize that no one knew anything about their anatomy and physiology. And so we had a lane. We first started with schools, actually. I started writing curriculum for schools. And while writing the curriculum for the schools, I was also writing curriculum for the adults and corporate. It wasn't specifically for corporate at the time, but it operated around corporate people. Everyone that I built this program on were either executives, directors, managers, or CEOs in the corporate space. So when I spoke to the lower level employees, and I really hate that word as well, that phrasing, lower level, because they're not lower, but some of the employees, when I spoke to them, I realized that a lot of their tension came from the top. It trickled down the ladder. And so helping people all around, from students that will eventually become adults, to adults who are teaching our students, and realizing that this is a loop or a circle that needed to be fine-tuned. And the whole process was really about teaching people about their body and empowering people how to understand when certain aspects or things that happen in their body, that they also have tools and techniques to remove themselves from that specific situation. Right now, CrashBell has grown so much. We are in schools, we are in corporations, we are in spaces. We do a lot of community work. Right now, we've been focused on the Me Time campaign, and the Me Time campaign is not only for corporate employees, but we noticed that there was the great resignation, or like we like to say, the great awakening and the great realization. And the realization was people needed to understand that their mental health and their emotional support really mattered. And so we came in as a, caviar on top to add to what companies have already tried to do, or maybe have been doing, or to even bring in some new stuff that they've never even heard of. And we developed that Me Time self-study course into a actual we developed the Me Time self-study course from the Me Time campaign. And this is a course that you can take as an individual. You can log on to our website, sign up. The course itself is interactive. You will not only have a PDF and a log of what it is that you're doing, but we also have questions, we have insight. We're literally making people track their thoughts, track their mindset, see what emotions that they are consistently living in. That way we can at least start to identify and then develop some type of plan on how to change. This course also has videos with it that will support the person. We have a group that's pretty cool. We just started the group, and that allows people to connect and interact with the course. And that's something that's really, really special for us right now, because community is really big for CrashBell. And with, and with Xencelabs alone, we are looking to build with people like yourself, because we all recognize that right now, it's very, very important that the individual receives care. Like, forget this whole corporate structure. If the individual is not okay, then, at that point, the corporation is going to suffer, because you will have absenteeism, you will have presenteeism. And a lot of people don't know what presenteeism is, but that's when you're present and you ain't doing nothing.
Not doing nothing, yep.
Nothing at all. So that happens so much, especially during COVID. So we developed a 12-month curriculum with the Me Time campaign. And that curriculum is literally a structure to not only recognize where you are, where the company is, what mental health is, steps that we can use, tools and techniques, communication, and how we can better it. Using the brain or the mindset of empathy to actually approach our colleagues. And also, one of my favorite portions is the ETC project, where people learn about their body language, their body. They learn about their anatomy, their sympathetic nervous system, their parasympathetic nervous system, which, for those of you who don't know the science, that's your fight or flight, or your rest and digest, which is arousal and excitement, or fear and danger, or relaxation, chilling out, and digestive system processing all the stuff. So we have a lot going on, obviously, right now. It's there's many sections of CrashBell that are moving. Right now, we're just really grateful to be ahead of the curve and be someone who has a voice in this time, but also someone who is to support. So I know that was long-winded, but roundabout, CrashBell is here to support.
Yeah. Where can people find CrashBell? Like, if they're interested, I'm going to put down in the link in the bottom, but just so that they can hear that verbally, where can we find
CrashBell is all over. But if you go to our website, crashbell.com, you can have access to not only what we do, but you can also check us on all of our social media outlets. We do a lot of content on those social media outlets. So if you need to understand how to properly me time and get yourself together, we have some cool videos that'll show you. We're not going to give you tips and techniques, but we'll show you, like, you know what? The video that we put out this week was great because it was about making coffee. But while the video is going, you hear all these rambling thoughts, all these things. Did I do this? And oh, the design, and oh man, I'm upset, and this and that. And in the middle of the video, it cuts and we remind ourselves to breathe. And then we have positive self-talk. And so the second part of the video is going against all those negative thoughts and just introducing positive self-talk. So we have stuff like that that you can find on our social media. But if you go to our website, we have online meditation, we have online courses, we have plenty of information on our blogs that you can get, and have some really, really amazing creative writers that help us with our blog. And not only myself, but the CrashBell team, they're all full of so much insight. So go check out crashbell.com. There's so much good stuff there.
Amazing. I am so excited about what CrashBell is doing. And I know we've talked a decent amount, just the two of us, Omar and myself, but I want to know more about both of y'all's stories and your backgrounds and what brought you to wellness where you are today. Ooh, right.
Okay, that's a story. Buckle up, Buttercup. So my story starts probably, and I'm gonna date myself right now, but 1995, because that's when I first read the Celestine Prophecy, which at its core, it's fictional, but at its core, it's a story about synchronicity and being a part of something bigger, right? And so that sparked something in me that I honestly don't know had to have existed before that, right? But wasn't sparked for whatever reason. And so that sent me on this journey of trying to understand humanity and understand why humans did what they did and why we created the society that we created, right? Like, I was like, I don't know if I like this society, right? Like, what? Everybody's not equal over here. So why did we do this, right? And so that was kind of my impetus, was to be like, what is happening? And to that end, it was a good 20-year period, because I ended up doing music and spending something like 20 plus years doing hip hop and, producing events and all of those things. Again, I was a cheerleader because I was supporting women in hip hop and urban media through She's So Fresh, because we are so fresh. And that was wonderful and made me feel really fulfilled. But I was like, there's more. And there was something that was still missing and I couldn't put my finger on what it was. And it wasn't until 2012 that I bumped into A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. And that's when the veil dropped. I won't even say it lifted, right? It dropped. I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. We're all just pretending. I understand now. We're all just like agreeing because it's a construct, right? And so that sent me down the true rabbit hole of what is the nature of reality? What is not the nature of reality? What are we really, right? And then that's when I started to truly understand, we are so much more than just what we see. We are so much more than what we look at when we look in the mirror, right? We are incredible light beings. We are made of energy. Everything around us is made of energy. Like, there's so many ways that we could be tapping into not just our own healing, but healing everyone else, right? And so that's when I started to hatch my nefarious plan to save the world. So my nefarious plan to save the world is to try to elevate the vibration of individuals, right? Because research shows that altruism, kindness, and compassion, right, are as viral as all of this negative stuff we like to wallow in. Okay. They've actually shown that an act of kindness, people will pay that act forward days later, right? And so that's a ripple effect. So my plan to save the world is to get everybody to be sending out that ripple effect of healing and compassion and good vibes, so that we can all influence, because we're all walking through each other's auras anyway. Every time we walk down the street, the aura extends about 50 feet from the body, right? So we're all walking through each other's auras. So why don't we make it a little bit better? So that's where I'm at now. And then I decided to explore Reiki, because after I started had that revelation, I was like, well, I can't do music anymore because music is very ego-based. And that was basically the collapse of my ego. And I was like, okay, what do I do now? So I really started studying, and that's when I discovered Reiki. And then that's when people were like, you make a good coach, right? So I bounced around as trying to be a life coach for a few years. And I was like, that's not my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse is really the mind, that unconscious space that we don't even understand the why we're doing what we're doing, and really getting people to ask those questions of themselves so that they could understand better. Because I have a theory that, society we talk about as this big thing, but society is made up of individuals. We're all society, right? And so if we decide to make different choices, if we decide to show up differently, society changes. And so that's when I said, this is about the mindset that we have every day when we get up and go out into the world, right? And so that led me to be the mindset coach. And then when I was doing my coaching and my Reiki, I don't understand why, but people felt the need to tell me all of their business and all of their stories and all of their troubles and all this stuff. And I was like, I need to charge more. So I was like, you know what? Let me get some professional training, right? To actually help people actively unpack what they need to unpack. It was coming up for them anyway. As soon as they got in a healing space or a space that felt safe, it was coming up, right? And I was like, okay, this is a need that has to be met. So at 45 years old, I said, hey, NYU, how you doing? And I went and took their master's program and I graduated with a master's degree in mental health and wellness counseling. And so now I am officially somebody's therapist. Can you imagine me as your therapist? But I'm officially somebody's therapist.
Oh, you sound like, I'm like, be my therapist. I'm like, anybody out there? We're gonna have connections so you can get in touch with Bless and you can get in touch with Omar, because obviously these are some people who have some knowledge to share. Omar, do you want to share a little bit about your story and how you got where you
Yeah.
like?
I mean, it was kind of in the sense, the same route of the artist. I had a music production company in my 20s. It was called Art for Money. We had an amazing thing going on. From the outside, everyone was like, oh my God, you guys got like Interscope and, you have BT, like you got this really cool studio looking over the Dumbo Bridge. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? But I'm not happy. I'm not happy. And I started to listen to an audio by a man by the name of Earl Nightingale. And then the audio, it was from the 1940s. I'm like, what, 1940s? But he said something that started the audio, which stated, men don't think. And I'm like, what? Excuse me? I think. And then whenever I would listen to it over and over, I realized what he was saying is that we don't actively, intentionally think. We just react and do based on what society is moving at. And so it really rocked my world. It threw me off because he also stated that you are like the five people that you are around the most. And I honestly felt that the people that I was around the most at that time were totally full of crap. BS. They were like lying about their life. They posed and like they had this amazing life and hip hop and, they got the car and they got the apartment and they got the house. And I'm like, you have a futon and 8 roommates and you ask me to borrow money all the time. Like, who am I around? And so I started to inner reflect and I started to witness like, hey, if they're this way, then you're this way. And I was like, am I full of shit? I think so. And so I had to be very honest with myself. And at that time, I allowed myself to witness Omar. I was 28 at the time. I was just coming out of some really, really deep stuff. We also like to call it in the mental health field, the Saturn's return, and just like really going through some trauma and going and getting through it though. I was coming out of a 6-year depression, had no idea I was depressed. I was healing from a relationship that I had a child with and, learning how to be a single dad. It was an amazing time in life, but it was also one of my lowest and I wasn't aware. So I eventually said, I'm stepping away from hip hop. I'm stepping away from music. I'm still going to be an artist. I'm still going to write and play and write music for people, but I'm not going to be a performing artist anymore. And from that moment, I knew that I had to do something. So a really good friend of mine one day took me and he's like, man, your energy's all crazy. I can see it. you're all messed up. What's going on with you right now? And I was like, man, I don't know so much. And so he was actually a massage therapist, and well, he was a qigong master. So he takes me into his massage therapy practice in the room, and he does some crazy stuff to my body. And I get up and I'm like, why do I feel like I'm high? He's like, because you've had so many blockages. Like, what are you going through? Are you going through a major shift in your life? And I'm like, how do you know this? And here I'm crying. I'm like, how do you know this is happening? Oh my God. And at that moment, he just says to me, he's like, I'm not sure why, but for some reason, I'm led to tell you, maybe you should go check out massage therapy school, because you have really good hands, and you also, like, you're a musician, so your hands are strong, but also, like, your energy kind of feels like you'll be really good at this. And I'm like, hey, touching girls. All right, let's go do it. And so literally, that was my motivation at the time. Ask a 28-year-old man to go massage people. My immediate response was girls. And so, come to find out, once I went into my first class, it was a study of the bones, myology class, and the bones and muscles. And I was so amazed, and I could not believe. I actually challenged my teacher. She's like, how many bones do you have in your body? And I'm like, 78. She's like, way off. And I'm like, yeah, right. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm like, no, it's 78. She's like, no, you're wrong. And I'm like, okay, show me. She's like, there's 206 bones in the human body. I'm like, 206? Are you serious? And then she lays them all out in front of me. And I literally pick up each bone one by one. And the class thought I was either a serial killer or just really weird, because I looked at each bone. Like, I stayed after class and I just looked at each bone. I was so fascinated. And that moment, it changed something shifted in me. Like, I saw myself differently. I was like, what? You mean this elbow bone is important and it has all these parts to it? And it connects to what we like, the ulnar nerve, which is the funny bone. Bam, you hit the funny bone. Ah. And now I knew how that worked. And I was like, that's why that works. And so the journey of being an artist and being a creative and coming into this healing space was kind of synchronistic and synergetic. And the ideas and the things that I learned in school, I began to apply in my own self. It wasn't really about understanding the human body for the world. It was about understanding it for me, like where my liver is, what it does, why it does it. And then at that moment, I was getting ready to leave class, finish school, and my teacher said something to me that sparked me. And she says, you can do anything. You can learn anything you want. You can do anything you want. You can be anything you want. And I'm like, no, that's not what I've been told. She's like, well, that's how your brain works. It's called plasticity. We just learned about it. And I'm like, I got to tell everybody. Everyone needs to know this. Like, why does no one know this? Why does everyone that I know thinks that that's not a thing? And so that's where CrashBell really was born. It was born in my mind from this idea that I can actually do anything, which means I can write an anatomy book and I can write anatomy curriculum. And actually, I do have an anatomy book, and we are actually producing that more right now, which is great. But the whole process was this journey to lead me to a space where I eventually fell into mental health and wellness. And it wasn't for the sake of trying to heal people, to be honest. It was my own journey. I went through the process of learning about my depression, of learning what to do, learning how to get help. Yes, there are self-help books. Yes, I saw a therapist. But the thing that really saved me was the connection that I had with myself. Mm-hmm. Like Omar's belief system, Omar's connection with whatever I am. Am I a human? That's cool. But what about before that? Who is that? What is that? What about the aspect that they like to talk about in religion, the spirit side of me? What is that? Where's this? Where is it? How does it work? And so from there, I just really fine-tuned my relationship with myself. And that's the thing that got me into mental health. Because once I realized that it was me being 1000% accountable, I could no longer blame the world. I couldn't say it was my dad's fault, my mom's fault, that person that pushed me on the stairs, or that one person that made me upset. It was no one else's fault but mine. And so from there, I was like, oh, wow, everyone needs to be accountable. Dang, that's going to be tough. And so the whole point was to, move into the direction to at least give people information. If they chose and if they decided that they wanted to take the journey as well with us, all of us who are on this journey, then we're going to be here to support them. But to be honest, it was more of a selfish nature for me to not help. I wasn't trying to help nobody. To be honest, I was only trying to
No,
Omar
what's so
together.
interesting that you say that, Omar, because I've joked about that in the past, right, with my Reiki clients, where I tell them, I'm like, you know what, this is totally selfish. This isn't even about you, right? Like, I feel so good when I give you a Reiki session, right, that I don't even know that this is about you, right? And so there is, but this is also why, and I don't know, and if we'll get to this later, but just really quick, this is also why I'm also committed to sort of disempowering certain words and empowering them in different ways, right? Because I'm a Leo, okay? Leo rules the self. And the opposite of Leo is Aquarius. Aquarius rules the collective, right? So there is a reason why there is a balance there. And I feel like part of my job right now at this juncture is to help people to understand that, being self-centered is okay, because that means grounded, right? Like, if I'm self-centered, that's important because I'm not supposed to be you-centered, right? And so this idea of being divested from the self, so it doesn't make sense to me except in methods of control, because when you're not grounded and you're not centered in yourself, people are able to do this, right? And move you where they want you to go. And the idea of even selfish, right? Like, if I'm giving someone Reiki and they are benefiting from it, all my clients are repeat clients, right? It's literally, I'm doing it because it feels so good to me. If it didn't feel good to me, then I'm actually probably harming them, right? Because then I'm giving them negative energy. So this idea of like selfish being just inherently bad, I just had to jump in and like expound on that a little bit, because that's, I think, a big part of the mission is sort of redefining language and how we use it,
Agreed.
Absolutely. I love, no, I'm so glad you interrupted with that, because I think that plays into something that's really important that artists feel all the time, is this like imposter syndrome. Like, I'll never be, I can't create. And you have this like self-doubt within you. But when you do something you love and you see the people who are out there and they're doing they're making the art and they're professionals and they're whatever, it's because they love it, right? They're really, they just love it. They do it because they love it. And if you come in and and you feel that and you're like,
it comes across. It's
right.
communicated, literally in the product that you then put out, that love. And that's why I work with people a lot on purpose, because it's not that you have to monetize everything that you love. But the reality is that if I have to live in this capitalist system where I have to make money, I sure am going to do it doing something that I love, right? Like, that makes me feel good. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to get up and go and do something I don't love. That's soul sucking. That's draining. I want to encourage people, yes, it's absolutely okay to question yourself, doubt yourself, ask yourself, right? I encourage people to ask themselves why. When you have that moment of self-doubt, when you have that moment of imposter syndrome, that's actually a sign. It's a guidepost for you to go a little bit deeper into yourself so that you can get over it, But at the same time, it's real, and I don't want to trivialize it for anybody, okay? Because it can be crippling, especially for artists. You can get all kind of artistic blocks and writer's block and whatever, right? But at the end of the day, you really can be whoever you want. You really can,
Yeah. And I like to also, speak to that imposter syndrome. I remember I lucked out. I was, again, I've been in spaces where one of my long-term clients, and I'll give her a shout out, Melanie Wilding, she has been speaking and writing about imposter syndrome. And we've been having intimate conversations while in session about this. And the funny thing is that we both realized that we were living in this imposter syndrome. We were like, yo, we're like, I know we're talking about this and all, but like, are we that? Like, are we like feeling that? And it actually radicalized me to move into an area where I understood my boundaries and also that I had no boundaries. It's like, it's like, oh, I understand my boundaries, but it's like, oh, you don't have no boundaries, Omar. You're just like loose cannon and everywhere. And so understanding the imposter syndrome and what it really means, but how it's also a construct. Like it's a construct that if it wasn't idealized by someone to say imposter syndrome, then we would never have the recognition to say, oh, I agree with that.
Right.
Actually, I feel that way too. And so there came a moment where I had to, like me and Melanie, we would have conversations. We're like, yo, when are we going to step out of this, right? Like we have to actually move out of this concept of us being an imposter, because at the end of the day, we were both in a field where we were speaking to people and giving information. I was doing panels. She was doing panels. She was in the middle of writing a whole book on imposter syndrome while feeling like an imposter. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. But like, how are we imposters if we're actually out here doing it? And not only that, but we're doing a good job at it because people tell us all the time that we're doing a good job at it. So maybe it's us. And maybe it's not that we feel like we're an imposter. Maybe we just really don't believe in ourselves. And so for me, I had to go with that. I had to go with, the facts. The facts were Omar has a lot of self-doubt that I keep putting off into this concept of like, oh, I'm an imposter and I make myself feel bad about it. And I had to realize that that's also a choice, Omar. Like you're choosing to go this route. So yeah, if you want to feel or believe you're an imposter and that you can't do it, then you're right. You're absolutely right. And every cell in your body will agree with you. And they will make sure that you relive that reality because you've already programmed your body to do so. It's like coaches, right? When they tell you to go into a game, if your mind is not focused and intentional on the game, then you will miss shots. You will make mistakes, period. Like that's just how the brain works. So I had to then focus like, Omar, yo, you're not an imposter. You do know what you're talking about, bro. Like, and don't get me wrong, it comes up all the time. For whoever's out there, it's still like last week came up. I'm like, do I really know what I'm doing? But at the same time, that's just ego, right? That's just your ego wanting to keep you safe. Because for me, it was after having conversations with Xencelabs, it was after having conversations with all these execs and all these finance people. And a part of me had to question my credibility at that point. And that happens. And I simply said, you know what? I'm going to curb that thought because I get it. You're defending yourself because if you look stupid in front of all these people, then you'll feel really embarrassed, and my ego will literally be hurt and bruised. So I get it. I see why you said that, ego. But truthfully, I got this. Not only do I got it, but I know that I'm smart enough to understand what I'm talking about. And I know that I'm aware enough to see how what I say infects people to get them to do things that help their lives. So we're just going to go ahead and check that imposter syndrome real quick. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to, and this is a skill, I then put on positive music that made me feel good and encouraged. And the lyrics of the music were very specific too. The lyrics of the music were actually speaking encouragement to me and saying that, you're okay. Or it was, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a woman named Amber Marks, but she has this song called Competition. And it pretty much just stating like, you're not a competition. And I was using that for myself. Like, you're not competing with yourself. You can, but you're not. Right now, you're only being in love with Omar and the fact that Omar is doing what it is that he wants to do and loves to do. Let's only focus on that. Because if the imposter syndrome is that like, oh, no, you're not. Oh, yeah, no, you can't do that. Did you see the way they were looking at you whenever you were on screen? Mm-hmm. Oh, my God, the way that person was, and it's like all this jargon. But once again, whenever we think of how the brain works, it's only feedback from neurological transactions and processes that I've built. This doesn't exist in Bless's or Ansley's head. It doesn't exist in your head, only in mine. So I've built up the construct in order to support this constant, like what we call it, the monkey mind, the monkey brain. It's like just shooting out stuff. And sometimes it's like, your kid's gonna die tomorrow. And I'm like,
you're like, what?
that's so random. I'm sitting here having ice cream. I'm eating ice cream. What's up, monkey mind? And I check my monkey mind. I'm like, you know what? That's really mean of you to say something like that. And I don't actually think that that's something that I would allow to happen to, if my friend said that to me, I check them.
Yep.
So you know what? Don't talk to me that way, ego. Don't say that type of stuff to me. That's crazy talk.
Oh my God. I have so many thoughts. I have so many thoughts based on what you said. Oh my gosh. Okay. Can I just jump in for 1 minute? All right. So
yes.
In psychotherapy, and this is good to know in case anybody's in therapy, thinking about going to therapy. Therapy is buzzy right now, so this would be great for y'all to know. So every therapist works from what's called a theoretical orientation, right? And a lot of therapists work with an integrative theoretical orientation, which means they're taking different theories and they're pulling them together to say, this is the best way to help people, right? I use existential a lot because our experiences hold meaning for us, So, but one of the ones that I do use sometimes, to your point of what you were just saying and what we're talking about with imposter syndrome, is what's called narrative therapy. Okay. And narrative is the idea that human beings tell ourselves stories to make sense of the world around us. Mm-hmm. Sometimes those stories are deeply disempowering, right? Yes. I have imposter syndrome. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, you can reauthor a new story. Okay. If you're one of those people that's how you make sense of the world, primarily, you can start to tell yourself a new story. And I will illustrate with a quick little thing. I decided I was going to go and do some self-development myself. They took us out to the woods at 4:00 in the morning. We had to do, with a harness, we had to do, what do they call, not obstacle courses, but like climbing ropes and all that. Yeah, that type of thing, right? So there was a freestanding 25-foot tall pole with a 12x12 plate on the top. And yours truly, who doesn't even like driving over bridges, I'm so afraid of heights. I can't even tell you. And I get there and I'm watching everybody go up before me. And all I can think is in my head is this playing on a tape on repeat. I'm so scared. I'm so afraid of heights. I'm so scared. I'm so afraid of heights. Right. And then it was my turn. And in that moment, I saw my choice. I saw that I could tell myself something different. And I started climbing the pole. And what I chose to tell myself was, God loves me, right? So I was like, God loves me, it's not gonna let me fall. God loves me, it's not gonna let me fall. God loves me, right? That was the whole chant the whole way up, the mantra. Got to the top, turned around, and then we had to jump off and grab a trapeze. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I was like, I did it. The one who's afraid of heights. So this is my point to illustrate. You are telling yourself a story. You have the option to not. You can tell yourself something different, right? And I tell my clients, talk to yourself, like you just said, Omar, talk to yourself the way you would talk to your friend. If your friend came to you and was like, I am so stupid because I'm just giving into imposter syndrome and it feels like it makes me so, you would never allow your friend to talk like that. You would be like, what, you're so crazy. You're wonderful. You're awesome. Why would you not extend that same grace, compassion, and love to yourself? Because it really is a construct and it's not real, right? And then one more thing, and I won't even claim this. I got this from one of these self-help gurus, T. Harv Eker, if you want to go Google him. But he broke it down one day and I said, wow, that really stuck and resonated. He said, you are the captain of your ship. Your mind is your lieutenant. Okay? Your mind is not in charge. You are in charge. But the mind/ego has convinced you that they're in charge. Right? And so you got to put them back in their place. And so when the ego shows up, when those thoughts show up, when it's like, I have to go and do this presentation, or I have to create, this campaign or what have you, and that thought comes up, literally, I do almost the exact same thing, Omar, where I'm just like, why, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Because the ego really is trying to protect you. Like it's really trying
it
to
really is.
like not have you be embarrassed, not have you be hurt, right? And yeah, that's a little can hold you back, okay? But when you meet it with love, and this is a saying I always lead with love, right? When you meet that with understanding that that is actually a form of love, right? Then you can really turn around and sincerely say, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that, but I'm good. I got this. I really do got this. You know what I'm saying? Like, really.
Yeah, just stay back there.
Go now. I'll see you later. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be here. You go over there, right? And then you can go forward, okay? And then the other thing to do something, I want to offer something actionable, right, around this sort of internal conversation that people are having, which is opposite affirmations. Right. So when you have these negative self-thoughts, I want you to take 5 of them, 5 things that are telling you you can't do something. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You're not any of those things. Put that in one column. You're going to go as opposite as you can in another column. Yep. Okay. Now, the trick about that part is try to make it as believable as you can. So if it's over here, and it says, I am a failure because I've never accomplished anything. A, that's probably not true. That's the first. B, so then you come over here, right? And so what would be the opposite affirmation? I have accomplished things in my life. That's true. And I will accomplish more. You will, right? Like it just has to be believable. You know, your mind has to believe it. But making that, because things, our brains love evidence, and we can't kind of unsee something once we see it. So if you have these thoughts here that are negative, that are harming you, that are hurting you, that are hindering you, balance it out. Okay. And I would go into the 3-to-1 ratio, but I'm not going that deep. Just do 1 for each one. Okay. 1 for each thought to counterbalance it. Because 99.99% of the time, what you're thinking is distorted. It's not true. It's you in your head. It's, all of this stuff. So get it out of your head. Get it on paper. You will hear how absurd it sounds once you actually speak it out of your brain, right? The stuff we tell ourselves in our head, speak it out loud. You will be shocked at what you're hearing from yourself. Okay. So make that list of 5 things, 3, at the least 3 counterbalance things. Okay. That'll be a good start.
And we do that in the Me Time study course too, if anyone's interested.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have the link down so you guys can go check it out down here in the description. So be sure to look up CrashBell's Me Time and take to heart some of the things that these folks are saying, because it really, really works. I was wondering if y'all might have any anything people can do to kind of address creative blocks when they're feeling like they've hit this roadblock. It can be general for any kind of art or writing or whatever. How do we battle that?
Well, I'll say something really quick and I'll throw it over to Bless. For me, I am a really big somatic movement person. And if you guys don't know what somatic movement is, soma is muscle and somatic is muscle movement. So when you have movement, you need to literally release blood, process stuff. And so I'll give you an example. Somatic movement was really big with me because as a medical massage therapist, you have to move the soma in order to move energy out. And so I am a dancer. I love moving my body. So for me, I actually used somatic movement and therapy to heal a lot of the areas of my self-doubt. And I'll show you what there's a lot of ways that can look, but I'll give you the ways that I did it. First way, I love dancing. So I would put on some music and I would dance. Sometimes I would actually lay down in the meditative state and imagine myself dancing, which actually produces the same results. FYI, if you guys didn't know this, your brain does not know the difference between reality and imagination. So my imagination actually fulfilled me the same way that it would that I was actually dancing minus the sweat. minus the physiological sweat. Now, the other part of that is tapping. I'm a really big tapper. Tapping is when you take fingertips or small fist, light, not like hard, you want to hitting yourself like that, but you just kind of want to tap. But you also want to follow tension. This is the issue. Most people like stir away from tension. Oh, that hurts. Don't touch it. Oh, stop it. It hurts. Don't. It hurts. But no, it hurts because you need to get it out because there's some tension there. So a lot of times the tapping soma, like if you got tension in the neck and you start tapping like this, you come around this area. And I know this doesn't seem like something that is working to block your mindset, but it actually is. Because your brain can only focus on one thing. And what you've been focusing on is, I can't, I'm blocked. This is challenging. This is hard. I have no thoughts. Like all your thoughts are against you, period. And so the tapping, it removes your mind from the thought and it puts it on the sensation that you have in your body. And so while tapping, like Bless just said, use those affirmations. Yo, I got this, man. Yo, you created that one thing that was so dope. Do you really think that you can't do another thing? Or that time that you had that inspiration to write. Inspiration itself is an energy. And so if you don't feel the inspiration, once again, change your mindset away from the thoughts that don't allow you to be inspired. And then say, you know what, I'm just going to like love me today. And I'm just going to do what's good for me. And I guarantee you, if you go outside and put your feet in some grass and maybe look at a tree, you will have inspiration. You will have connectivity because your monkey mind, your ego brain has stopped judging the world on what it feels that is right. And so you switch the whole system around to only focus on what it is that's best for you. And the tapping literally removes cortisol, tension, stress. So it works. Bless.
Ooh, I'm still marinating on that because I'm just like, yes. So, because I'm a tree hugger, like I'm a tree person, and so whenever I need inspiration, it's like nature and trees and looking at leaves and like all of those things really matter. And as someone who works with energy, I will say also to add on to that there is an energetic exchange that is going on when we are in nature. So when you feel like, you go to the woods or you go on a hike and you feel more energized, you really actually do because you got an energetic boost, right? So I 100% agree with that. And I love tapping. I teach my clients this. This is good for anxiety, right? So if you're having anxiety, the alternate tapping, it mimics that walking effect, right? So you're able to sort of balance both sides of your brain. I personally love mirror work, but it can feel weird for people when they first start it, but I love, because when I was going through my issues, we have all been there. I mean, we've all been there, right? When I was going through my issues of trying to understand what was sort of in my way, 99% of the time it's us in our own way. It was, oh my gosh, I have issues around self-worth, right? And so for me, it was a year straight up, a year of conversations with myself in the mirror, literally saying, I am worthy. And I had to build it up, right? Because affirmation has to be believable. So you're already kind of starting from this place. Well, I don't believe I'm worthy, right? So it started off with, I am worthy of friendship. Like I am worthy of this. Because those things I felt like I was worthy of, and then it built up to the things that I really had trouble receiving, So mirror work is super helpful. If you are someone that is, sort of you default to the physical side, right? Your sacral chakra. First off, no chakra is an island. And I want to go on record as saying that. Okay. So your sacral chakra is very much connected to your throat chakra, which is all connected to circuit. Okay. So, but your creativity lives in that area, kind of, right? So you want to support that area as much as possible. So that looks like, for women, it's the womb area. For men, it's also similar in that area. And so you can do yoga practices that support stretching that part of your body, right? This is going to sound weird. Hula hooping is good for that area because it's moving that, moving the energy. To his point about tapping, right? What we're actually talking about is getting that energy flowing again, in terms of the physicality. You want it to flow, and you can have all kinds of blockages. Most people don't know you put out from the front, but you receive from the back with your chakras, right? So making sure that both of those areas are kind of clear, and then that's sort of like the Reiki master stuff and the energetic work that I do. But to go put on my therapist hat, is, what are you afraid of? What is the actual block? What is it? Right? And if it's fear, it's weird what people do. We don't want to give energy to fear. But the brain is fascinating, because when you actually get it out of your head, your brain is able to stop thinking about it. It's able to start thinking about other things, So you can write, I tell my clients, if it's something that is really, you feel like it's in your way, write it down on a piece of paper. You can take that paper, you can bury it, you can burn it, you can scatter the ashes to the ocean, give it back to Yamaya. You know what I mean? There are so many different ways that you can go about removing it from you, okay? Because he's absolutely right. It's there and it's kind of taking up space. You know what I'm saying? And you want to kind of just get it out of the way so that you can have the other thoughts come in clearer. So that idea of rolling it around in your head and saying, so blocked, I'm so blocked, I'm so blocked. Get the pen and paper, write it down. I am so blocked. And I think that this is why I'm blocked. And I don't want to be blocked. Whatever it is, right? Get it out. Then go to the park and go hug you a tree and get some binaural beats, because I swear by my binaural beats and brain entrainment. Okay. Do we know what binaural beats are? Because I will share if we don't know what binaural beats are.
I think we all do, but I think absolutely share for anybody who's not listening. I'm all about it.
Just in case anybody doesn't know, binaural beats are frequencies that are set at a specific rate so that it gets your brain waves and allows them to move with that specific frequency, right? So like, I swear by binaural beats, and they have, ones for creativity. I've been on my gratitude space for the last couple of days. I do higher self. I don't work for this app, but this is my go-to app, is Beatfulness. I love Beatfulness. There's so much to choose from. And it's just, that is my last go-to. If I'm really, really blocked, if I'm really, really stuck, if I'm just in a space where I can't get up and over my own brain, because it happens, that's where I go to the physical part. So I want to get out of my head, and I put on my binaural beats and I write it out and I go hug a tree. And then I'm good.
Oh. Wow. I feel like I'm like, you guys both just gave so much fodder for artists and creatives and just people, adults, children, students, mothers, fathers, all brothers, sisters, everybody out there. So much and like, just, it's only been what, an hour that we've been talking, and you've just given so many ways to be with yourself and to meet yourself where you are, and to move beyond where you are and go forward and take on what you want to do and be where you want to be. And I am just like, it is so good to hear. I love it. I think we might be in a place where we can kind of conclude our session. If there's anything else that y'all want to talk about real quick to kind of end the waters here, I'd love to open a space before I totally close out.
There's I guess if anything, it's always about, also tools and techniques. There are plenty of tools, there are plenty of techniques. Me and Bless have literally given you a plethora of tools and techniques that can last you all year. But I will encourage you all to also do your own self-study. Self-study is really important because When you study something for yourself, you actually build up the brain neurology and the pathways to open up things that you literally have not learned before. A lot of times we just regurgitate information, but we have no understanding of where it comes from. So it actually just kind of plays like a mute point in our life. So for all of you that are listening and all of you that are looking to not only understand some of these things that we spoke about, understand where your creative blocks are, the most important thing is that you got to start being selfish, literally. And I don't mean like you got to treat people like crap. That's not what selfishness is. You have to be your best friend, but you also have to be brave enough to stand up to yourself from yourself. Like you literally have to tell yourself, no, that's not okay. Because you would never accept that type of behavior from someone else. And that's just what it is. And so learn the tools, learn the techniques. Obviously, we have plenty of tools and techniques at crashbell.com. But if you need other people, other sources, maybe we're not your wheelhouse. It's the only thing that you need to do is just do. Like, don't sit around, don't make excuses. If you recognize that you're telling that story, and the story is the first, like I had to recognize the story I was telling because the story I was telling kept showing up in my life. So recognize that story, write it down, get it out. And then empathy towards yourself is the greatest tool ever. And with that, always ask in any moment, no matter what, if you're feeling good, if you're feeling bad, how do I feel? And then what you'll do is you'll answer yourself. I feel like crap right now. Why? Why? What is it about right now that makes you feel like crap? Or I feel amazing right now. Oh, okay. What is it about right now that makes you feel amazing? And developing that relationship with yourself, developing that empathy for yourself is the most powerful tool that we all can give ourselves. So for all of you out there, the moment that you choose to have empathy for yourself is the moment that you empower yourself to know who you are and more of yourself. And then your creativity is it's going to just start coming out of all types of places. Ideas are going to just start, you're going to have so much creative ideas come to you that you can't actually write them all down fast enough.
And can't execute them all either. Like that's been my reality, bro. like I keep having. It was like I hit a space where they just would not stop coming, and I was like, "There's only 24 hours in a day. There's only one me," you know. And so, and just to follow up, and my sort of final thoughts would be, all roads lead back to the self. At the end of the day, like that's how, because, and for a very simple reason, there is literally nobody else inside of you. You are the common denominator in your life. You are the one that is looking out, judging scenarios, making choices based on what's in here. Literally all to his point, right? All roads. Oh, my friends are questionable. I am the one hanging out with them. I'm in a relationship that I just know I'm not supposed to be. Why are you in that relationship, right? Like all roads lead back to the self, right? And so getting clear and honest and authentic with yourself is so important. I'm telling you, as a therapist, we cannot work harder than our clients. Right? So when somebody is coming into therapy and they're like, I want to explore myself and my healing, I'm like, great, take me there. I can't go there without them. That's their healing, right? So like you have to be accountable, you know? And like I always quote, I heard it from Will Smith, but I can't say it's him, but I heard it from him. He said, what happens to you is not your fault, but it's your responsibility to make sure it doesn't bleed onto other people. Right. And so being accountable for yourself, truly understanding that you are the one making your choices. Yes, there are influences to your choices. There's geopolitical systems, there's capitalism, there's all these things, there's past trauma, there's, you know, parents and whatever, right? All of that comes into play. But at some point, you have to turn the mirror around and say to yourself, all of that is there. What am I going to do with it? Because you have a choice. You absolutely have a choice. And when you get clear about that, and you're like, okay, this is what I will accept. This is what I will not. This is my life. I choose to not have you in it. When you start to remove those things and you get clear about the fact that you get one shot, baby, one shot in this incarnation, one, right? Then you will champion that to the end. You will not tolerate anybody usurping that from you. Okay. So get clear. If you need to clear out some of the stuff that's there that you know is hindering you, you can go to therapy. You can do yoga. You can get the therapeutic massage. I know I did therapeutic massage for a little bit. So therapeutic massage, Reiki, all of these things, all these modalities, acupuncture. And if one doesn't fit, if one is not working, please try another one. Okay. Because everything is not for everybody. Right. And so person activity fit, there is an actual study on person activity fit. Gratitude journaling is not for everybody. Yoga is not for everybody. Find what resonates with you. Okay. And the last thing I'm going to say, me and Omar sitting here going like this, giving y'all, there are no gurus. There are no gurus. None.
Just you.
You are your guru. You. Okay.
Just
what
you.
resonates with you. Don't nobody on this planet know you better than you. Even if you haven't seen yourself in a long time. Nobody knows you better than you. Okay. So please go there. You are waiting for you. So go there. And if you need support, get it. There's people like us. Weird. Man, that's gonna be me and Omar's move.
Oh man. Well, I hope that everybody who's out there watching this goes and checks out what Omar and Bless are doing, because these two are really fabulous. And if you haven't gotten enough, we're going to have them back on our Creative Life series panel discussion on January 28th. So tune in, ask questions, get in touch, get in tune, and we will talk very soon.